Arcade Heroes.
Driving games. Light gun games. The arcade industry loves them. What happens when you combine the two with a beloved comic book, TV, cartoon, movie character? You become Batman. Yes, it's Batman, once again available in the arcade space, but unlike ever before. The character has starred in quite a few video games since the late 1980s, but there are too many to go over for the purposes of this review.
I didn't see that coming, even though you guys probably planted the bomb.
For arcades, this is not the first time you can play as the Dark Knight. Atari Games released a beat-em-up called Batman, based upon the Tim Burton movie of the same name in 1990. Acclaim would make a Batman-based brawler of their own in 1996, based upon the movie Batman Forever. Among Batman games, most have you playing as the Dark Knight. On occasion, such as with the first Batman arcade game and Batman Returns on the Sega CD, there are parts where you control the Batmobile, but I am not aware of any with an exclusive focus on the vehicle like this one. In fact, this new game was originally called Batmobile, but they decided to change it to the slightly more recognized Batman. Who was they? That would be Specular Interactive. Started in 2007, they have previously created two other racing arcade games, the Hydro Thunder spiritual successor H2 Overdrive, and in 2011, the vehicular combat game Dirty Drivin'. Both games were a success in the arcade sector, and Batman brings with it some elements from those two titles while giving its own twist on the concept. With every arcade release they have done, Specular and Rothrills have created a very flashy presentation, and Batman's no exception. In fact, I would say it's even flashier than the other two games. Blinking LEDs are found in the seat and above the foot pedals, and of course you can't miss the gigantic bat symbol on the top of the game. Batman does go a step beyond other racers I've seen in this industry by using a specially molded bat seat, and the bat steering wheel, which almost feels like a yoke controller. There are two fire buttons that are easy to access with your thumbs, and the mold apparently has a place for two other fire buttons, but those are covered up. The game also has a pin pad, which is used for creating a game profile to track your progress, and one other feature I'll get into later. Overall, it's a good design. The only complaint I have with it is the monitor. Apparently, I had the extreme misfortune of getting one of the few lemons, and the monitor on my unit only died after 4 days of use. I blame Wells Gardner. Checking around, no one else has had such an issue. Unfortunately, it was covered under warranty. Never seen an LCD fail, especially so quickly, so with the replacement, this will hopefully just be one of those bitter memories I pocket into the back of my mind. In Batman, you take control of one of 10 Batmobile vehicles that span the ages from the classic TV series to the most recent Dark Knight movies. While there are a lot more Batmobiles that could have been put into the game from the comics and other media sources, they decided to include models that would be the most recognizable to the public. When you first begin a game, you choose your level that you will tackle. There are 3 easy and 3 hard levels featuring Mr. Freeze, Bane, or the Joker. Each has 8 objectives, ending with a boss battle. Objectives are different between easy and hard, and it is here that you will also run into objectives featuring other villains such as the Scarecrow, Catwoman, or the Penguin. It is also at this point you can enter into a code to create or access your profile if you wish. There are some little Easter eggs for Batman fans on this screen, just a nice little touch there. Then you get to choose the Batmobile. I hope that in a subsequent software update that they give you a little more time to make the choice, say 20 seconds instead of 12. Overall, though, from what I've looked at on the audits, the animated series model seems to be the most popular in my location so far. After that, the game will give you some tips on how to play as a way to cover any loading the game has to do in the background. We'll then have a little video to give you an idea of what your objective is, although you can skip that if you wish. With that done, it's a rolling start off and jump right into the action. Your first weapon is a mounted machine gun, but you'll soon pick up other power-ups as you cruise along. Those power-ups include missiles for some explosive shots, batarangs which shock an enemy, autocannon, which fires a few powerful shots, the battering ram for auto-smashing opponents, and the skydrome, which will grab the enemy and pull them off the road. For me, the most enjoyable of these would have to be the battering ram, as that creates the most entertaining and explosive situations in bashing other vehicles. It would just be nice if you were granted some temporary invisibility while the ramp was active. You can also damage enemy cars at any time by bashing into them, which is a lot of fun. The flow of the game is frantic and you need to practice a little to avoid enemy fires. They tend to lock onto you rather quickly. There is a boost function that is activated by tapping the gas, which can help shake their lock. I have also learned that sometimes you need to try and hold back from getting ahead of opponents, as they can fall behind you then blast you from behind without much trouble. That's where something like an oil slick, caltrops, or smoke screen weapon would come in handy. There is a brake pedal in this game, though, so it can be useful if you get yourself into a situation like that. It's also used for some instant U-turns in case the enemy is going in the other direction. Along that line, if you're hoping for ultra-realistic driving physics, then Batman is not where you will find those. After giving it some playtime, however, I think this was the best option for this type of play. You can do a 90-degree turn quite easily, and there's the U-turn thing I mentioned. This keeps the flow of an intense chase from being interrupted by a wall every few meters. Well, I guess this could upset people who want initial D-type physics. Those would just not work in this kind of game, and frankly it wouldn't be very fun, but very frustrating instead. Also, to help you out, there's a map which shows objectives, power-ups, and the general layout of the city. It's a little strange at first to come across the giant green arrows that point you in the direction of an objective, but you can drive through those if you really want to. It just means that you'll probably get to your objective a little later. But there's some neat little things you can find within the city if you decide to go off the beaten path. Once an objective is complete, you get a score and a rank measure between 1 to 5 bat symbols, 5 being the best. You then take on the next objective, where you get to see more video and voice acting to give you a rundown of what you need to do. There are over 1,000 lines of spoken dialogue in the game, which for an arcade title these days is pretty extensive. Sometimes objectives are based on destroying enemy vehicles, sometimes you need to collect items, and other times you need to go off and jump to bash or shoot something. Every third mission you get to fly the bat and take out things like turrets or enemy vehicles from the sky. As that craft is more like a helicopter, I think it makes more sense than using one of the bat wings, which were more like straight shooting jets. Might not have worked out too well. The boss battles keep you on your toes and are challenging, the battle with Bane probably being the one I've had to continue the most on. The Joker battle's fun, as you whittle a train down piece by piece. There's even a point where you have to use the keypad to enter in a deactivation code. That was a nice touch. Once the battle's over, Gotham City is safe, and you get a free game to take on the next villain. The game does have a scoring system which also includes combos for higher bonuses.
You'll always be my dark knight in shining armor, Batman.
Pretty much every racing game has featured network play in the recent past, and while Batman's no exception, the nature of play does limit it to only 2 units being able to hook up as opposed to 4, 6, 8, whichever. I only have 1 machine available to me at the moment, but the lead developer of the game describes the 2-player mode as: in multiplayer, some missions keep the players together, whereas others allow the player to accomplish their goals independently. There are a limited number of enemies and targets in each mission, so although the players are playing as allies, it always comes down to a fierce battle between the players to win each mission. Boss battles are even more cutthroat because the winner scores huge bonuses which can sway the winner of the game. Defeating the boss awards the player a free play. In multiplayer, both players get a free play. On a technical level, Batman runs at a resolution of 1376 by 768, and it does that while maintaining a smooth 60 frames per second. It's actually so noticeably smooth, I almost wonder if it goes above that, but I don't have the equipment to do a technical breakdown of the frame rate and all that. Even the attract mode videos run at 60 frames per second, and don't let anyone convince you that 30's just fine when you can see 60 in action, as it really does look better. I haven't run into any slowdown while playing the game either. Unfortunately, the video here will probably not show how smooth this game really is, just my camera doesn't do that, unfortunately. But I've corrected what I can to get it as close to seeing it with your own eyeballs as possible. All the levels occur at night, so the ambience of the lighting fits in with that. Fortunately, the game does not overdo any bloom or HDR lighting effects, although they are there to a degree. There are a lot of light sources in the game, so that's also impressive since lighting generally can be the culprit of slowdown depending upon how it's handled. Not privy to all the effects that they might have put into the game, but overall it is a good-looking title. Not something that I think could be pulled off with the last generation of game consoles when taking into account all these factors that I've mentioned so far. There are some areas of Gotham which do appear to be more detailed than others, where objects like trees aren't as detailed, as in something like a Big Buck HD, although I haven't seen many racing games where they do super realistic trees, since you're usually just zooming past them anyways. The Batmobile models were certainly crafted with care and are quite detailed. You can actually not change the camera view, so the Batmobile is always in view, so you can admire it that way. On the sound, we have it set at the 40% level, with that seeming to be loud enough. As mentioned, there's a lot of dialogue to be found in the game, and while they didn't appear to use any big-name voice actors, they get the job done fine. Batman and the villains have their quips and banter, nothing I'd say out of the ordinary, although perhaps someone more versed in the Batman universe could comment better on which section of the Batman canon these characters fit into. Bane is certainly nothing like the version seen in the most recent Dark Knight film, but closer to the cartoon version, although it has been a while since I watched any of those. Mr. Freeze is certainly not the Arnold Schwarzenegger version. The Joker seems closer to the character played in the cartoons as well. Aside from my bad luck with the monitor, it's a great game. The best comparison I can make for it is a blend of Chase HQ 2 and Dirty Driving, but it's more chaotic than either of those. Chaotic would be the operative word here to describe this game, and if that is your thing, then you should be right at home. I should point out that this game is a bit difficult. I don't think it's possible to complete it on one credit. There's some tuning the operator has control of in regards to how quickly that difficulty ramps up. But either way, there are times where enemies do get what feels like a cheap shot on you. It's happened to me right after landing on the start or right after you grab a health power-up. But I've also, with play, been figuring out how to avoid those situations. It's not outside your control completely. Just have to learn how to dodge or adjust your speed, so with a little practice you can make it work. It is an arcade exclusive title, and I imagine that it'll not be too difficult to come across out there. Thanks for watching, and keep an eye open for more stuff from the arcade.